Hi, this is Jack from Alpha Charts with a State of the Market video. Today is May 10th, 2020. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Before we get started, this is not a recommendation to buy, hold, or sell any stock or security. This is for informational purposes only. I may hold positions in some of the stocks mentioned. Know your time frame and risk tolerance. Okay, so we're going to start with the S&P 500 SPX. And we have now, for the last week, have been chopping around, actually last couple weeks, into this kind of broad range here, right? 2730-ish to 2950-ish, right? And again, we've been chopping around for for a while within this range. 18, that's 3 to 4 weeks really have kind of moved sideways. So that is definitely a positive for the bulls, right? Big up, and then we're consolidating sideways. I think that the 2960-ish above that would be the breakout that we're looking for. Looking back, this seems like it's an important area, and continues to be, maybe all the way through 3,025. This is a range area, right? We don't, there's not a pinpoint, it's just a range. But I think that is what I'm looking for, someplace in here. If we can get through this area, that would be very bullish. We talked about last week, the 50-day moving average right here. That's the only moving average I'm using this week is the 50-day, just because I want to highlight what is actually going on with it. Again, so 50 bars brings us here, right? So next week, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next week, by Friday, these bars will be taken out. And then what price does will be extremely important. If we move sideways or break out this 50-day moving average, which, again, as we expected, is starting to flatten, would definitely start to continue to flatten and potentially start to curl up, right? But after next week, if we don't, if it rolls over, obviously that would be a negative. But even if we stay in this area after next week, let's say we consolidate another week, which is possible, the week after that, you're starting to lose these lower ones, right? And these lower bars would definitely cause this to start to curl up. So I think next 2 weeks are going to be extremely important. Again, the 50-day is a nice intermediate term trend signal. And so it has been in a downtrend, obviously. And we're starting to see a little bit change to that. So again, this is something to take notice of. Prices above it. Again, this week we're going to take out this set of bars, and then we'll see what happens. Again, it's at an inflection point. I don't think that's not a place where I'm going to add a ton of risk, because we don't know which way it could go. Could it roll back over? That's always a possibility, right? We can't discount that either. So yes, it has not made this high here. It hasn't taken out this high here yet. We do see higher lows and higher highs, so the uptrend is still intact. But this is an important area, very important area right here. So again, I think I probably said the same thing last week. Probably not a place where I want to add a ton of risk in this area because it hasn't proven itself yet. And after this big run, I don't know. We'll see. So here's bigger picture. I don't know what that is. Okay. Bigger picture. I want to just kind of show you on the weekly and then the monthly what S&P looks like. So I moved to a line chart to make it easier to see just closing prices. And this obviously is an important area. And moving to the weekly chart, we can see, that this area, again, very important. Technically, we're in a range with a false breakout here and came back into that range, right? That's how you can easily view this weekly chart. Now, when we go to the monthly, it gets even more interesting. And let's go ahead and zoom out. Actually, before we do that, let's just look at, zoom out to here, right? I'll go back to the weekly, zoom out to here. So on the weekly chart, we had this area and this area, and this being this, 1600 area being very, very important, right? Again, we had another bottoming process here. This was an important area, potential support here if we got down that way. And again, this obviously is an important area also, right? In this area, potentially could be, so I use the dotted line to show it. So just, weekly chart, bigger picture, going back to, the 2000 highs, that is, these were important areas that I've identified on the weekly chart. Going to the monthly chart, right? So let's go ahead and look at this in context of the monthly chart. Now, this chart, being a monthly chart, goes back to 1932. This was the bottom of the Great Depression, and here's the uptrend line, which of all the charts I've seen, this is the one that intrigues me the most because, I mean, that is just a beautiful uptrend from the 1932 low. All right, so we have this beautiful uptrend. We've hit it, once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times already, right? And it's held. So that's good. So looking at this, again, I want to show you where context where this blue line comes from, because I know you've seen it on my charts from time to time. What if, again, and this is what the bears, this is the bearish case. What if this is a head and shoulders top right here? What if this is a big topping pattern on the monthly chart and needs to confirm? That's always a possibility. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's likely to happen. It's probably less likely to happen than we think. But I think we need to keep an open mind. And when you zoom out back to the weekly, right? Again, multiple time frames, you could definitely see one shoulder, head. And again, this would be the area, right? So this is an important area for that other potential shoulder. If we're going to roll over here, this is the area that I would be most concerned about. Back to the monthly chart, right? Now, it would have to break, 2490-ish. I'm not sure why this is here. We'll just move that up here. The monthly chart things get a little wonky. So it would have to obviously break this being the potential neckline, 2500-ish. And even then, that's not a guarantee because this looks like a giant double top on the monthly, right? And it broke the 800 level right here, right? So this would have been confirmation. But then look what happened. It took a V when it hit the trend line, right back up, and the bull market has been going ever since, right? So when you look at it here, just because it breaks below here does not mean it's, it's a done deal. It's a head and shoulders top, and we're going to come back and test this area. But I think, if we see this type of action, that'd be extremely bullish action, right? But I think that this is definitely something to watch out for. If we get a rollover and a retest of the 2500-ish area, things could get kind of messy. Now, where is this line here? This line is roughly, yeah, here. So yeah, so we're, so it could, and again, it could hit anywhere along this line. I mean, for sure. So we don't know where, where that's going to be. Again, it's kind of weird there. So we'll adjust that back down. So it looks good. Going on a weekly chart, November, September, October, somewhere in there. That would be, a weak part of the market. So, so that's the bear case, right? Do I think that's going to happen? Well, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But it's something that we need to just kind of be aware of and be in the back and be have it in the back of our minds, that that's a possibility if we roll over here. Now, the more likely scenario, in my opinion, is further consolidation and we move higher and we're going to challenge all times highs because that's what the momentum and the charts are most, are kind of showing. It's just shift in momentum. a quick rollover here would again change my mind. And this, 24 to 2500 range is obviously very, very important. All right, well, let's keep moving. That's SPX. That's the bull case, and that's the bear case, right? And that's really an uber bear case if you want to look at it that way too. I don't think there's a lot of levels in between here and here, right? Lots and lots of levels. It would have to break this. It would have to break this area right here, go through this area right here, eventually to get to this area here. So lots of warnings, lots of information that will be given by the market before or even if we get down this way. And again, we break above 3,000-ish. I think I think things are looking pretty good. At very least, you have a place to manage risk against. All right, enough about SPX. QQQ, the Qs look amazing. It's already made the turn on the 50-day. It's already looping up. So things are looking really good. It looks like it wants to fill this gap, and then we'll see, right? That 230-ish level, that's important. Once that gap is filled, we can see what happens. But it's definitely leading the market. IWM, again, the weakest of the bunch, hasn't flattened out yet on the 50-day. We are above this area. I think that's a positive. Obviously going back, it's a huge area. So as long as we stay above that area, I think IWM at the very least would be considered participating. Dow Jones Composite Average, very similar to the IWM in the fact that the 50-day has not started to flatten yet. At least in the SPX is flattening. QQQ is actually turning up. But this is, again, if we consolidate in this area, I think that's a positive and this will flatten out. Looking at financials, again, super weak. You're still seeing a declining 50-day. Price is above it, but just by 1 bar at this point. Could absolutely be a bear flag that this is forming. Again, this is, in my opinion, super weak. It is above this area, so it has that going for it. It may end up retesting this area, and then we could, potentially manage risk against it. If this area holds, that may be the bullish double bottom that we, or retest at the very least, that we're looking for. Semiconductors, super strong, just like QQQ in a lot of way. Hasn't taken out this high yet, but there's that gap that we're looking at. Potentially can gap fill that. We'll be watching for that. But yeah, I mean, as far as charts go, that's a fairly strong looking chart, especially from this, literally V bottom. We'll watch and see, does it roll over here? Does it not roll over here? Maybe making some kind of inverse head and shoulders on a tradable way, with this being the neckline. I don't know. We'll see. But SMH looking strong. I think that bodes well for the market overall. Lumber, back to this important area. And again, I think that's the theme overall in the market. Let's go to weekly on this one. Look at this important area. Boom, 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 boom. Now, is this just a retest and it rolls over? Or is it going to break through? That remains to be seen. If lumber gets above 54.50-ish, that'd be very, very, very bullish, obviously. If we roll over here, that's the bearish scenario. So like a lot of these charts, we are at an inflection point. And I think lumber is also there. So this is definitely what I'm watching to see what happens here, above or below. The put call ratio, we're definitely in a bullish range, not to an extreme yet, but I think that there's a lot of bulls right now. So that's just something to be aware of. Again, not much of a signal here because we're just in a bullish range. So I think that's a positive. Looking at the SPX versus TLT, this was an interesting chart. So this is the market overall versus the safety of bonds, right? Government bonds. And this has been an important area for this ratio, and we're now up against it. So this is my chart of the week right here. I think that this tells us everything we need to know. Are we going to roll over here and bonds start outperforming again, or do we see the S&P power through this area, or at the very least consolidate and then power through the area and get above this area? So if S&P can do that, that's my bullish scenario. If TLT starts outperforming, that's definitely a bearish scenario. Bonds, credit spreads. So we had the big spike, came down, and yeah, it's kind of rolling over, still coming in some. We're still elevated, that's for sure. So credit spreads are still, wide. This was an important area right here in the past. So let's see what this does. If we can take out this low in the credit spreads, I think that's the bullish case, right? We want to see some tightening. If these turn back up, that's the bearish case. So definitely what I'm watching, but we got lower highs, right? And lower lows. So as long as we can take out this lower low, I think that's the bearish case. The bullish case for sure. Looking at the copper gold ratio futures. Copper futures versus gold futures. So this is a chart I've been watching for a while, as you know. Let's go to the weekly. And this was the 2009 low. And we broke below it. And now we're retesting it from the bottom side. So is this a failed breakdown and we're going to bust up and go back through it? Or is this, and again, look where the 50-day is, or is this a retest of the breakdown and we roll back over, right? So how exciting is this, right? We're about to find out. It could move sideways too. That's the other option, right? But this ratio, I think, if this rolls over here, I think the bearish scenario is much more likely in the markets. If we get above it, I think that's much more of a bullish scenario. So again, another chart at an inflection point. Let's look at the value line geometric index. So value line geometric index, again, let's look at the weekly here. And I think this is a bullish chart. This was an important area and price is now above it. This shows how the median stock is doing. So it's more of a breadth indicator, if nothing else. And we're above this area. I think that's definitely a positive, right? So that's one for the bulls here, for sure. And just for fun, let's look at the I100, large cap global 100 ETF. Again, we're seeing it looks almost exactly like the S&P, right? So not much I can say here, but there's the 50-day right there. And technically the price is still below it, but it is kind of flattening. That's on the weekly. Hold on. There it is on the daily, right? So again, this is an important area, just like on the SPX, right? Almost looks exactly the same. Okay, so in conclusion, my take on the whole thing is that we have a lot of bullish things happening. I like the value line geometric index. I like how the S&P 500 is starting to flatten. I like how the QQQs are still leading. SMH is looking really good. I think that's all for the bulls. I think, though, that the inflection point that we're seeing here, especially in things like the copper gold ratio, in things like the SPY versus TLT, SPX versus TLT, I think that this is the next 2 weeks really are extremely important. Do we see that head and shoulders type pattern start to take form and everyone starts talking about it? And people start talking about this 1500 level again? Or are we going to see consolidation and potential breakout above this area and confirmation, in my opinion, of this bull market? Time will tell. I'm not laying stake on anything. I am invested on the long side right now, about 50% or so. And mostly, the only reason why I'm only 50% invested right now is because things have moved so fast that I haven't found good entry points to be more invested. And the other thing was a lot of earnings were coming up, and I didn't want the risk, the binary risk of earnings, potentially take a 25% haircut off a position. So the combination of the fast move and being an earning season, I'm trying to be very selective in what I go along with. But I am on the long side right now. And again, if we break out above this area, I hope to get even longer. Um, Hope you all have a great day. Good good luck this week in the market. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Take care.